Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for the devil comes down with great fury, because he knows that his time is short. If you're noticing a quickening pace of these weird things going on all around us, you are not alone. I'm a little bit freaked out, and I think you might be too. Yesterday's podcast was removed by the YouTube algorithms in under 15 minutes after just 73 views. So today we're going to use a little bit of encoding. First of all, when I use the term VP, that does not stand for Vice President. Can you imagine what VP might stand for? Also, we're going to use MM. That would represent the thing that people are putting on their faces, and it's required. Okay, that is MM. And then lastly, we're going to use the term dabba dabba do. Dabba dabba dip do. And that represents the thing that people are taking all over the place. So dabba dabba do, MM, and VP. Those are the code words. So there's a lot of folks that are pretty well entrenched in the idea that they don't want to take the dabba dabba do. And I'm one of them. You know, to me, it looks like the mark of the beast. And secondly, I don't think it's safe. I've seen way too many people have problems with this thing, and there's no way I'm going to take the dabba dabba do. So the group that we're looking for is that group, the group that is not going to be doing that. And what we're looking for is, you know, we also need to realize that you can approach friends and family all day long with mountains of evidence. They can't be reached. I think it's time we realize that we're not going to be able to obtain mass non-compliance. That is not going to happen. So we need to be formulating some other plans. So, you know, Walmart has fired the first shot across the bow, so to speak. They have required that all of their corporate employees take the dabba dabba do. So you have to ask the question, logically, how much longer are we going to be allowed to buy groceries if we don't take the dabba dabba do? A lot of people are starting to ask the question, where are we going to go? Where the hell are we going? What are we going to do? And I think I have a plan, guys. And I know the plan can work if we can get some traction and get some people behind it. It's not going to take many to get this thing snowballed, and we can make this work. The plan is this. It's very simple. The U.S. Virgin Islands is a U.S. territory. Now, this is the place where we can obtain absolute freedom. It's there for the taking if we can get the numbers to make the move. Now, I want to point out before you tune out and say, well, I can't do that. You realize that unless your ancestors were brought over here during the slave trade, and maybe you're listening to this podcast and you migrated to the United States for freedom, and now that freedom is disappearing very quickly, all of your ancestors had to make the move. They escaped a place of less freedom to come to a place of more freedom. And moving to a new country is not an easy thing to do. It wasn't easy back then, and it's not easy now, but it can be done, and it's not that expensive. It is obtainable. We can have freedom. We just have to be willing to make the move to get it. With the U.S. Virgin Islands, the population of the entire territory is only 106,000. Of that, only 53,000 are registered voters. And last year, during the November 2020 elections, only 18,000 people turned out to vote. So we wouldn't need very many people to move down there and make this commitment. We can go down there and we can, you know, peacefully take over and get that island and I think that once we get down there, I think the people that live there now would appreciate what we've done. They might resist it at first, but I think ultimately they're going to realize that the freedom they're going to get through this movement is going to be monumental. But we don't need that many people. If only 18,000 people are turning out to vote in a regular election, if we can get 20,000, we should be able to do it. We have to be prepared that they would try to steal the election, as we've seen in the States and also in Puerto Rico. But ultimately, I think we can make this happen. So why the U.S. Virgin Islands? The U.S. Virgin Islands is a U.S. territory, meaning that you don't have to apply with the government in order to move there and become a resident or a citizen. You're already a citizen of the United States. So all U.S. citizens can freely move to the U.S. Virgin Islands. There is no applying for any kind of government permit in order to do that. All U.S. Americans, U.S. citizens are free to move there tomorrow. The other thing about the U.S. Virgin Islands is, it's a territory that doesn't have representation in the U.S. Congress. So they don't have a senator and they don't have a representative in the House of Representatives. Without representation, there can be no taxation. So the IRS doesn't have jurisdiction in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, before I lose all you guys, the plan is if we can get the tens of thousands that are going to be needed to join this cause and commit to making this move, we can go down there and we can have the numbers that are necessary to vote in our own people. We can vote it. We can immediately recall the governor out there and put in our own person. We can put in our own people for all of the state legislature seats. We can get our own sheriff. We can get our own city council, our own school boards, all of these, the judges, the state judges especially. We can control all of that through the ballot box peacefully. This can be done. And we can eliminate the MM. We can eliminate the VP. We can have freedom down there. There's no reason to register your car. I mean, I've never understood that one. There are so many things that we can get freedom on. And I know a lot of you guys might be thinking, well, if you eliminate the income tax, how will the government fund itself? Well, first of all, I can already tell you without even looking, there's way too many government bureaucrats and jobs out there that can be eliminated. We all know that, okay? If you're opposed to this VP, you probably see the problems with big government. We're going to reduce the size of that government. And by the way, for the first, 150 years of the United States, there was no income tax. The country got along just fine without an income tax. In fact, the income tax was specifically forbidden in the original U.S. Constitution. But the people went to sleep and allowed evil powers to get in there and do something that was never intended. Another reason that I've chosen to target the U.S. Virgin Islands is because it is also conveniently located in the Eastern time zone for most of the year. Now, in the wintertime, it'll be an hour ahead of Eastern time zone. But for most people that work remotely or have maybe you're an employee of a corporation or a company that allows you to office from home, you can run that business. And there's plenty. I mean, the Wi-Fi's there, the fiber optic undersea cables are there. You can run your business from the Virgin Islands easily. It was suggested about a year ago on another forum that I was in that we do this with the Marianas Islands out in the Pacific. But the problem is that time change is just going to be brutal. If you're trying to run a business back in the United States or be an employee of a company back in the United States, you would literally have to be practically nocturnal. So the U.S. Virgin Islands also offers that. And then also another big advantage of being in the U.S. Virgin Islands is it's part of the Federal Reserve banking system. So, if you try to move to another country and remain an employee of a U.S. company or run a business that requires the U.S. banking system, you're going to be locked out or there's going to be problems. So this way, nobody has to make those financial sacrifices in order to come to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Another thing that I like about the U.S. Virgin Islands is that the language spoken on the island is English. I recently moved to Puerto Rico, and I haven't learned Spanish, and it's a massive undertaking to learn a new language. But it's English in the Virgin Islands. So most of the people coming from the mainland United States would not have to learn a new language. Obviously, there's going to be a housing problem if you're trying to increase the population of the territory by 20, 30, 40, 50% very, very rapidly. So some families might have to double up and share a home. And it might be that we would need somebody to go in and buy some land that has some wealth and basically build a showering facility, and we could pitch tents and maybe set up some areas where people could run their business from a laptop, and stay out of the rain. But ultimately, if you want freedom, you're going to have to make some sacrifices to get it. It's not going to come free, and nobody else is going to bring it to you. So my thoughts are, I think we need to have people, I'm not going to go down there and buy a house right now, hoping that I can convince 20, 30, 40, 50,000 other people to follow me down there. I'm not even going to go down there and buy a house just because 50,000 people put a thumbs up on YouTube and said, yeah, I'm in, with no skin in the game. I think what we need in order to be assured that the rest of the people saying they're going to go are actually going to follow through, we need to have skin in the game. There needs to be something, a pledge of some sort that says, yeah, I'm really serious. If you stop and think about it, the people that signed their name to that Declaration of Independence 240 years ago or whatever, they were signing their own death warrant if they didn't win. And not only that, they were risking everything that they owned, their lives included. So my thoughts were we would decide on a dollar amount. And what I plan to do next is set up a Zoom call with some of the people that are interested, and we can have a conference, and maybe we can talk about, maybe there's some other places we'd want to go, but I'm thinking USVI is the place. But we would also determine, what dollar amount is needed. So my thoughts are we set up a trust, and it could be a self-directed trust, maybe through a brokerage account, or maybe just with a bank, and you'd hold it in US dollars, although I'm not very bullish on the US dollar. But ultimately, you can put in this money. And the way it would work is, if we can't make our milestones, in other words, we would say we need to have X number of pledges by this certain date. And if we don't, then everybody's going to have the opportunity to withdraw their pledge, this financial commitment. If we do get the numbers and we move down there, then basically the only way you would get your money is if you move down there and show the trustee that, yeah, here's my voter registration with the USVI. So those are my thoughts on that. But that's how I think we could, have assurances that we can move down there and get this done. Because, like I say, I'm not about to move down there because a bunch of other anonymous YouTubers said, yeah, I'll move down there too after you do. Now, I do think that after we make this move, the real estate investments that we do make down there are going to skyrocket in value, because there's going to be so many people wanting to flee the United States to get zero taxes. Even those that took the dabba-dabba-do are going to want to come down there. And I'm not too excited about having them as neighbors, but what can we do? It's a free country. So those are my thoughts. If you've gotten to the end of this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you'd leave a comment on YouTube, and also subscribe to the channel, because I think we can do this. It's just a matter of time until we can find a big podcaster with a big following that can really get this thing out there and get this message out. George Gammon came down to Puerto Rico earlier this year and looked into moving, and he just couldn't deal with the and the blue state politics. So he decided he'd rather stay in the mainland. But this might be something he's interested in. If we could get this to somebody big like a Joe Rogan or an Alex Jones, this thing would be done in a matter of days. But we can get it done. We just need to get it in front of the right people that have the large audiences already. Thank you for listening, and please leave a comment below. Thank you.